I need some more option parts. What's going on, everybody? Greg here with RC Driver, and this is video number 2 of our Craniac revamp series. What I'm doing here is I'm installing a bunch of aftermarket parts in this truck for my son Jacob. Hope you guys saw video number 1. I gave you a rundown of what's going on with this build and even showed you how to install the rear wheelie bar on it. And now I'm going to show you how to install some more hop-up parts from the Traxxas line. What I have here, I have the caster blocks, the rear carriers, and the steering blocks. So if you have a Stampede base truck, a Rustler base truck, even a Bandit, these parts will work on that vehicle, and this series is going to show you how to install them. Let's head over to the workbench. Like the first video in this series, I want to go over the parts first to let you know what they're about before you just go buy them and install them in your car. So I'm going to start off here with the caster blocks. Now these are from Traxxas, obviously, part number 3632A. Now these are machined aluminum, and as you can see, they come blue anodized, and Traxxas actually offers, I believe it's all their aftermarket parts in a variety of colors. I think they also have red and green, so check out the website to see what color part that you want. All right, back to the caster blocks here. So there is a left and a right caster block. And the reason why you would want to consider swapping out your caster block is this is a part that can break. If you take a nasty tumble, the top ear could crack off, the pin can rip through the bottom. And I'm talking, if you take a hard hit, that can happen. Now, there are some people out there that suggest you turn to an aftermarket plastic part, but obviously there's aluminum parts available. And what's the difference? Well, it's really a matter of personal opinion. Now, I have to tell you, from my experience, I have been building these cars for years. I mean, a lot of years. I don't want to date myself here, but I've often used Traxxas aluminum parts and I have not had a problem. One thing you want to consider is when you upgrade to an aluminum part, something else in the suspension would probably get weaker, another plastic part. So that is something always to consider. And you should even consider that when purchasing a plastic upgrade. Something else down the line always has the potential of breaking. However, I've had really good luck with all of the Traxxas aluminum option parts. They are the manufacturer of the car. They know how to make their aftermarket part. So it is a part that I recommend. Now, the next part is the steering knuckle. This is a really nice set here, part number 3636A, and there's the part number there. Now what's really nice about this is they include extra bearings. Now a lot of these cars do come with bearings and some of them don't come with bearings. They come with bushings. So if your kit has bushings in it, this is a great upgrade beyond just the steering knuckle upgrade. What happens with the steering knuckle is this ear right here can break off. This is where your steering link attaches to, and a rough tumble yet again. That can snap. I've seen it happen in a lot of race events where they run spec slashes. This is an upgrade part that they allow because it does happen. So if you're thinking about upgrading it, maybe even haven't broken it yet, I don't think you're going to go wrong if you pick one of these up. And finally, we have the rear axle carriers here. And as you can see, these are machined in aluminum, blue anodized again, and they do come with the bearings just like that front steering block did. So it is an upgrade if your car has bushings in there. But this is machined just to be an exact replacement for the plastic rear carrier. And what can happen with the plastic rear carriers is the top piece can snap off, again, in a hard crash. Where I've seen these parts break most often is when somebody else hits you. So again, these are really nice upgrades to have, and luckily they're really easy to install. I'm going to show you. So we'll start off up front here with this particular hop-up upgrade. And what we're going to do is take off the wheel first. Again, you're going to use your 7mm nut driver that came with your kit, or if you have an aftermarket wrench, you could use that as well. The wheel off, what I like to do is just place it under the car, kind of supports it. Now we have access to the carrier and block. Now's a good time to knock off any dirt that may be there, just to make it easier to swap out the parts. And the next step is to remove the wheel hex. Just take a flat blade screwdriver and stick it between the gap there and pop that hex off because it snaps onto this pin in the back here. What you're going to do is remove that pin, just set that aside because we're going to reuse that. And then this axle kind of just floats in there. And there's a spacer here that you're going to need to keep track of. Pull that off. And as you can see, this kit is equipped with bushings. So when we upgrade the steering block, it's going to be a bigger improvement. Now I like to go and remove this nut that retains the steering link. So I'll take a 5.5mm nut driver, and sometimes it'll spin. So you may need a Phillips screwdriver to hold the screw while you remove the nut. Now we can remove the hinge pin here, and this is a screw pin. You're just going to use your Phillips to remove the screw pin. Set that aside, pop the steering link off, and now this will swivel up, and we just have to remove the shoulder screw here. And when you remove the shoulder screw, there'll be a washer, just keep track of that as well. And now we're ready to work on these parts. What we're basically going to do is swap out the rest of this hardware onto the new aluminum parts. So you're going to remove the screw, slide out the axle. So I like to leave the parts here for reference. Now I could come over here, come and get my aftermarket parts. See if there's any hardware in here. There's some hardware hidden down this package. So we have some hinge pins there. Then I'll get my steering blocks. So we have all of our new parts here. We have to build a left side carrier. I'm going to start by taking my steering blocks and inserting the bearings. I'm going to take a moment and clean up that axle. It's covered in grease. Now I'm going to install the axle from the back of the block. I'll slide the spacer back on, the shim here. Find my pin, slide that in, make sure it's centered. Now I'm going to snap that wheel hex back on, and that should hold everything together. Just like that. Now we need the new pins, and these are to secure the steering block to the caster block. As a tip, what I like to do is take a dot of blue Loctite, just put a small dot on the threads, and that should prevent the screw from loosening up. Take a 2mm driver and just tighten this down. We're all set. And now I'll put the steering screw back in. Now I could start assembling it back into the suspension. Here's the screw pin I took out before. Now we can put the upper link hardware back in. And it's also a good idea to use a drop of Loctite here as well. And now we can put our steering rod back on with the retaining nut. And just like that, we've installed the new carrier and steering block. Then you can put your wheel back on and then repeat the process for the other side. And now we can install the rear carrier, and it is a much similar process to the front. We'll start off by removing the rear wheel. Next, we can remove the shoulder screw for the upper link, and then we'll remove the hinge pin. We'll just slide the hub out as one assembly. It's much easier to work on this way. Take a minute to clean everything off. And then again, we'll use the screwdriver to pop the hex off, place that aside, place the pin aside, slide the axle out, keep the shim. Now we can install our aluminum rear carriers. So with the rear carriers, there isn't a left or right carrier. What we'll do is we'll start by installing the bearings, one on each side, slide the axle in, slide that spacer on, slip the cross pin in, make sure it's centered, and pop that hex back on. Now we're ready to put the assembly back in. Just make sure you put your drive shaft in first. Then you can put your hinge pin in using the lower hole in the hub carrier. Put the upper screw in before tightening everything down. Remember, if you want, you can put a drop of Loctite there to secure the screw, and we'll tighten everything back down. To make your hinge pin screws nice and snug, make sure the upper link screw is nice and tight. Now we just have to repeat the step for the other side. And there we have our new rear carriers installed. So with about 15 or 20 minutes, you can install all those parts yourself. It's really easy to do. And now you have a truck that is a bit more durable, and it looks pretty cool with those blue aluminum parts on there. Thanks for watching, guys. Next time, in part number 3 of this build series, I'm going to install the shock caps and Traxxas blue aluminum turnbuckle kit. This is going to be a lot of work, but I'm going to enjoy it. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and notifications button, and if you found this video helpful, please give me that like.